In this week's episode of A Drier Dose of Disney, Jared gives us a post-hurricane update and status of the parks as well as some new best practices.
Welcome to this week's episode of A Drier Dose of Disney. I'm your host, Jared Dreyer, and it's been a little while. Last we talked to you, we were talking to you about wheelchairs in the park and going to Paris and all the cool things that we did this summer. We are now into the fall 2024 season, and like I said, a lot of these episodes will be a little bit more sporadic, but recently we had Hurricane Milton go right through the heart of Orlando, and the eye of the hurricane went directly over our condo at A Drier Dose of Disney, as well as all the Disney parks. And so we wanted to give you a quick update about our trip out there to assess the damage and see what it was like, as well as we spent 5 days in all the Disney parks and Universal parks with some family members and wanted to give you an update on some of the changes that we've seen happen at the parks, which have been pretty cool. Some of them are great. We did have one really bad negative experience that we're going to talk about here later in the episode, and how to avoid that on your next trip out to the happiest place on earth. But we want to give you an update on how we fared the hurricane out there in Orlando, how the parks did, what's open, what is not, and what it all looks like. But before we dive into that, I do want to ask, wherever you're listening to this podcast, or if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and find that pause button and then find subscribe and click that. So that way, every time we do release an episode, you're going to get the newest content delivered right into your inbox, and you're going to know exactly what is going on at all the parks as we give you guys updates. And then if there are any helpful Disney tips or tricks or Universal tips or tricks that have saved you time or money, we do ask you to support the show over at Patreon. That is down in the podcast description below. There's a link there for Patreon there. And through supporting the show, you're going to help keep the show going, as well as at our highest tier, you're going to get the biggest Disney tip or trick we have ever given out. So that's one we don't like to give out to the public because it is such a good one. So that's going to be available through our Patreon site only. And then as always, we have our I Can Do This All Day Tip of the Day gear, which has the cool Captain America logo with the castle in the middle. And it says, I can do this all day. And we truly did it all day at the parks on our last trip. So it's really cool gear that's out there. There's bags, there's water bottles, there's t-shirts, all different kinds of merchandise out there on our Etsy site. And that is also down in the podcast description below. So like I said, we just got back from our trip. It is mid-October. We actually went out. We flew out the Friday after Hurricane Milton, which went through on Wednesday into Thursday. They didn't open the airports back up until Friday, and we had already had a trip scheduled for months in advance to go out during Colorado's fall break week in mid-October. So that was not disrupted at all. The airports opened just in time for us to get out there and to assess the damage at our condo and to see exactly what Milton left in its path out there. Now, of course, our hearts go out to the people out in Tampa and in the St. Pete area. We know that they got hit very hard all the way down to Sarasota, and it was a mess for them with that huge storm surge. And so we hope and wish them well with their repairs and getting things back in shape over there. But the hurricane did track up I-4 and went directly over our condo. In fact, a lot of our friends on site out there at our complex said it was really eerie for about 40 minutes in the middle of the night. When it got completely silent, there was no noise at all, no rain, nothing. You couldn't even hear the wind. And they knew that they were in the eye of the hurricane. And then, of course, after that 40 minutes lapse, it just got way worse. They said the winds were awful. There were downed trees on our property out there. A lot of roof tiles were blown off. But for the most part, our condo did very well, and it weathered the storm. We've had a lot of questions about it and a lot of people reaching out, especially people coming to stay, asking, is the condo in good shape? What does this look like? And yeah, our condo did great. The windows are all intact. We didn't have any flooding. We did have one little tiny roof leak, but that's already being addressed and being fixed this week. So just a little tiny discoloration on one part of the ceiling, but we've got that fixed and we're going to get that repainted here real soon. But other than that, the condo did great. We lost power for just about an hour or two. And outside of that, everything kept up and running and everything went really smooth out there. Now, of course, throughout our condo complex and throughout the greater Orlando area, there is a ton of debris all over the ground. So whether that's leaves or pine needles or branches from different trees, it's absolutely everywhere. And The city's undergoing a big cleanup right now. We had our landscaping company come out to our condo and they cleaned up the majority of it, and we'll be working on that over the next week or so. But for the most part, Orlando did really well. And that is also true of the Disney and Universal parks. We did go to all 4 Disney parks and both Universal parks, and they are in great shape. And the reports I see coming out of Epic Universe is that it did pretty well as well. We have not seen SeaWorld or down, obviously, in Tampa Bay, Busch Gardens. We've not been down there to see how that one did. But as far as the 4 Disney parks and 2 Universal parks, they did very well. And just like everywhere else, they had a lot of debris, but everything's operational. All the rides are up and going. And it was business as usual when we were out there for our trip this last week. It's good to see that Orlando weathered the storm, and that's about as big of a direct hit as Orlando will ever take. So we felt really fortunate about that we can breathe a little easier sigh of relief in the future. Should any big storms come through, that we would do just as well. But a lot of good positive things coming out from Central Florida from Hurricane Milton at this point. Now, let's talk Disney and Universal. Lots of changes are going on in the parks. If you guys haven't been privy to the information or you haven't kept up on it, there is a ton of things happening right now, and I'm going to give you quick updates on each one, just so you know the status of the parks and what it looks like. Over at Universal, the 2 main parks, Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, those are in the same kind of shape that they've always been in. No big changes going on over there. If you listen to our episodes this past summer, they opened up the new Minions Land at Universal Studios. And outside of that, there's not a lot of big changes. They do have over at Universal the new DreamWorks area, which includes the Trolls roller coaster and the Kung Fu Panda area. But again, these are geared towards really little kids, and they're a cool little area. We did walk through. We did check out the food that was over there, but it's a pretty simple area of the park that they expanded over there. So all the work and construction is done over at those 2 parks. But the big news is coming out of Epic Universe. That's going in closer to the airport. And they have 4 new lands coming in over there. You guys have probably all seen it. They have Dark Universe, which is my new favorite, and that is geared towards the classic Universal monsters. They have the Super Nintendo Land, which is the Mario area over in the parks there. They do have the How to Train Your Dragon area. And the final area that we're really excited about is the new Ministry of Magic area for Harry Potter. We do have some big Harry Potter fans in our family, and so we are definitely looking forward to checking all that out. But a lot of cool things are going on over at the Epic Universe Park, and they are now slated for a May 2025 opening. In fact, they did give a date for later in May this next year that they're going to be opening up. Our fingers are crossed that they are going to do a preview days for pass holders so that we can get over there and get a chance to check it out. And if they do, I will be booking my plane ticket and flying out there as quickly as I can, and hopefully going there over a weekend just to get it all checked out and to do a podcast episode on it. We are really excited about Epic Universe coming. It's going to be a big park. There's going to be a lot of things going on over there. So a lot more to come when that does get opened. Then looking over at Disney, I'm going to start today at Epcot, and I'm going to go in order of what are the biggest changes coming. And so Epcot's got the smallest changes because they've already done so many of them over the last couple of years. So over at Epcot, the only work that's going on is they are refurbishing Test Track. We are looking forward to that update. We hope that they do modernize that a little bit more and add some cool stuff there. Now, of course, I want Chevy to keep the naming rights on that and for Chevy to stay intact in the basement as you exit and to see all the cool cars. If you didn't know this about me and my family, we drive all Chevy vehicles. We have a Silverado truck, we have a Blazer and a Corvette, and absolutely love the Chevy line. So it's always fun to go see their newest vehicles and talk to them about what we love about ours when we go down there. But Test Track is being refurbished right now, and that is the only work going on over at Epcot today. So nothing big is planned at this point in time. They did finish Moana's Journey of Water this last year. We have an episode on that if you'd like to check that out. And outside of that, they finished up all the work through the center of the park that was under construction previously. So now you can actually walk through the middle section. So it's a lot easier to navigate that park, and Epcot looks absolutely great. Kudos to the Disney team on working on Epcot, but Test Track is the only work that's going on right now over at Epcot. Now, let's hop over to Animal Kingdom. No big works going on right now, but they are going to be closing Dinosaur and the dinosaur area of the park here very soon. And what they're going to be doing is doing construction to remodernize that towards more Central America. So we know that we have a new Indiana Jones ride going in there. It's going to use the same ride mechanics as the dinosaur ride. So this is going to be very close to the Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye over at Disneyland in California. But they did confirm that they are going to re-theme it. It's not going to be the Temple of the Forbidden Eye like what in California. It's going to be a completely unique ride, but it is going to use the same ride mechanics. So it's going to have that same Jeep feel that's out of control driving through some kind of temple. And they're going to do some really cool stuff with that. And then we also have the Encanto piece of it going in. So they're going to do the house and they're going to do a whole bunch of cool things there, as well as other things tied to Central America. There's rumors of Coco being a part of that as well. And so we're looking forward to seeing what they do there over the next couple of years if they build that out. But nothing has really started happening there yet. And they did say that they're going to be closing that very soon here. In fact, we knew that was going to be our last time riding the dinosaur ride when we went on this trip, since we're not going to be going out there anytime in the immediate future. So we're looking forward to that. And then over at Hollywood Studios, they've got the new Monsters, Inc. land that's going to be coming. So they're going to be taking out the Muppet Vision 4D over there, as well as some of the Muppet area. Now, we do hope that they leave Mama Melrose and the Pizza Rizzo restaurants intact. Those are two great Italian restaurants. One is a dine-in and one is a quick service. And so we have our fingers crossed that those remain, but they're going to be doing a new Monsters, Inc. land over at Hollywood Studios. Now, of course, none of that's happened yet, and they haven't closed anything, but more to come as they work on that. And then the biggest changes are going to be coming over at Magic Kingdom. They're going to be filling in the Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island and changing that all into a Cars land. From what we hear, it's going to be pretty close to what they've done at California Adventure in Anaheim. And we do believe that they'll have Radiator Springs Racers over there like they do in Anaheim. But more to come as they give us more information as they start building that all out. If you're familiar with that area, it's a pretty large scale improvement and change over there just because the Rivers of America is so large in and of itself. But this is going to give Magic Kingdom a lot of room to expand if they want to do more than just cars. So they're going to have an opportunity to really grow it. Now, in our party that went out there this last week, we were talking about those changes that were coming. And the number one question we kept getting in our group was, are they going to have the Cozy Cone Motel set up with all the different food? Now, if you've listened to my episode about California Adventure, some of the best foods come out of those Cozy Cone Motels, including the bacon mac and cheese cup and some of the other cool stuff there. So we encourage you go listen to that episode. Our fingers are crossed that they are going to be having those same food setups over in Magic Kingdom in Orlando, but we don't know the exact details yet. So more to come as they develop that. And the good news is as they develop it, they shouldn't need to take down any major rides. Now, they will be updating Thunder Mountain at the same time. And if you're not familiar with California, the Thunder Mountain at California went through a reimagineering a few years ago, and it got some new offerings, both digital and mechanical over there, that were really cool, and some cool special effects that take place in that Thunder Mountain in Anaheim. So we're hopeful that the same kind of changes come to Thunder Mountain at Magic Kingdom in Orlando. But it's a pretty simple upgrade, so that shouldn't take them too long to get that done. But they are going to be working on that as well. So a lot of big changes are coming to Magic Kingdom over the next few years here. A lot of cool things going into the parks, as Bob Iger put a lot of money back into the parks. And so we're hopeful that they're going to be doing a lot of cool updates. There is a lot of speculation about the Star Wars Star Cruiser Hotel out there. And that was a thing that used to buy for a few nights stay. They're talking about, does it just turn into a normal hotel? And that's what we're hoping for, is that it just turns into a Star Wars themed hotel that people can book at their leisure, just like any other hotel out there. That would be a cool themed area that you could go visit over there, and that they would let, hopefully, the general public into their general restaurants over there like they do at their other resorts as well. So a lot of cool things coming there. And then we're hopeful, fingers crossed, we keep hearing very vague rumors about a fifth park that's going to be built out there in Orlando, and that it could be tied to either the Star Wars universe or to the Marvel universe. And again, way too early to tell. We've not heard a whole lot. We just keep hearing about a fifth venue out there in Orlando. So that would be awesome and would definitely compete against the new Epic universe coming. So definitely keep your eyes and ears peeled as you hear news come out about that. And it'll be a few years out. As you know, Epic universe took a couple years to get built for Universal, and they're still not open until May of 2025. So we'll get a good warning before that happens, and we can start planning our trips accordingly for when those changes come. Now, let's talk about logistically. There were a lot of changes that we saw at the parks as we went on our trip this last week out there. And the biggest one, and probably the one that I'm the most upset about, is Tron has moved away from a virtual queue towards just a standard queue with the individual lightning lane. Now, I think this is a big mistake. I think that Tron is still a big marquee ride. It's one that people definitely want to do. And the virtual queue gave you an opportunity to have a much shorter wait and to guarantee your time to ride that ride during the day. Now, with Tron being a standard queue, you're going to be waiting in line. You're going to have to go sit over there for at least an hour. That's how long we waited. And we did see wait times creep up to 2 hours. Now, they do have the queuing space to do this, which is nice. And in talking to cast members, they said that's the primary reason Tron went to a standard queue, while Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind has not yet, is because they said Tron has the room for a very large queue up there, and they're not worried about the standard queue and the wait times that are happening up there. Now, I will say one downside of the Tron queuing area is part of it can be outdoors. They did a really great job building this cool cover over the roller coaster, so they do not have to shut it down if it rains over there at Magic Kingdom, which is really nice. But the way they formulated the queue over there, there is areas of the queue that are exposed to the elements and could be outside. So keep that in mind as you're going over there. If the wait times are really long, you could be in the hot sun or exposed to rain if it does rain over there. But we were fortunate enough, it didn't rain, and we got through the queue, like I said, in about an hour's time. Now, like I said, they said the reason they haven't done that at Guardians of the Galaxy is because they believe they do not have the queue space at Guardians of the Galaxy to accommodate a very large crowd over there. Now, if you've ridden that ride, the queue inside the building is extensive and pretty lengthy. So I actually do believe they have quite a bit of room to put a queue together and let you wait inside. But I know that they're more concerned about the outside portion of it and the fact that it would go through the turnstiles where the lightning lane is. But again, they have plenty of room to do it. So I don't know what they're waiting for, but it is a big marquee ride. So I'm glad that they haven't done it yet, just because I do love having a virtual queue. Now, when you're thinking about Tron, one thing that they did really well in designing Tron is they have 2 loading zones. I want you to think back all the different rides that you've ridden throughout all the Disney and Universal parks, and all the ones that have 2 loading zones tend to move a lot quicker. So Tron's got it, Guardians of the Galaxy has it, Pirates of the Caribbean in Orlando has it, but not at Disneyland. Now, at Disneyland, they do load 2 boats at one time, which is the same type of format, but it's all through the same queue line. So at the Pirates of the Caribbean in Orlando, the queue actually splits at the end, so that keeps the line moving very quickly. We really like dual loading. It's second place to continuous load. And so when I talk about continuous load, I'm talking about rides like Haunted Mansion or Ariel's Undersea Journey, which has a continuous load. It's on a conveyor belt. It's always going to be taking people as quick as you can walk on. This is similar to the Buzz Lightyear rides or to the Finding Nemo ride at Epcot. Those rides tend to load the quickest and keep the line moving the best, followed closely by dual loading like Guardians of the Galaxy and Tron and Pirates. So those are the types of queues that we really enjoy. Of course, the worst queues are single load queues that can only do one ride at a time. So this is your Rock and Roller Coaster over at Hollywood Studios or your Expedition Everest at Animal Kingdom, where they're only able to do one roller coaster at a time. And those are your slowest load rides. You will see that also at Universal. So at Universal, they only have a single queue or a single load for Velocicoaster, but they do have the conveyor belt for Hagrid's, which kind of does help that a little bit. But it definitely slows down the loading speed and increases your wait time. So Tron did pretty well. So that line does move fairly quickly. So we encourage you when you're out there, definitely go check it out. Now, still at Magic Kingdom, they did keep Tiana's on a virtual queue, though it didn't help much. Our wait time was still an hour with the virtual queue on our trip out there this last week. And Tiana's is a great ride. They did a great upgrade on it. We did talk about that in a previous episode. So please go check that one out. But that has not changed. So that one is staying virtual queue. Now, the biggest change that we saw when we were out there for our week was the decrease in the number of lightning lanes that were given out. And this is a big reason for celebration. This is a great change. is in my previous episodes, one of my biggest pet peeves that I have out there is they give out way too many lightning lane tickets or passes, which means that there are thousands of people going through the lightning lane every hour on every ride. And so when you're in the standard queue on the standby line, you're seeing hundreds of people go through lightning lane, and they don't take the standby queue very often. Now on this trip, the queues were a little bit longer, but we did not see as many lightning lanes. And in fact, there were numerous times I'd be in ride queues and I would see people on their phones trying to get more lightning lanes, and they were all gone for the entire day. In fact, on one ride, I saw one lady sitting there consistently refreshing and refreshing her screen every few seconds, trying to capture another lightning lane that maybe somebody else was going to give up. And this was at about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was midway through the day and they were all gone. Now with the new changes, you have the new multi-pass lightning lane, which caused this. So the multi-pass lightning lane is what reduced the number of lightning lanes, but it's also because people are able to reserve their lightning lanes up to 60 days in advance. And this is more similar to what it was like before, where you could go in and you could pick one tier 1 ride and a couple tier 2 rides. They've designed it that same way so you can get one marquee ride and a couple lower rides, but you can start these reservations well in advance so you don't have to get up at 7 a.m. and start reserving at that point in time, and you can focus on the virtual queue. So I think that's a win for everybody. So if you like lightning lane, you're able to reserve those in advance. You don't have to worry morning of. You can focus on your virtual queues and getting those, and your day may be better planned out. Whereas for the standard queue people such as myself, there are fewer lightning lanes now being given out, and these standard queues are moving a lot quicker. Though they may have been a little bit longer, so there were times that we saw longer lines, the queues moved a lot faster and you were able to get through them a lot quicker. So that was awesome. And you didn't get that same sense of rage every time you get close to the front of the line and you'd see hundreds and hundreds of lightning lane people go through while you were sitting there waiting, and then they would take 10 of you. Consistently, they were taking equal numbers of lightning lane to standard queue, and the standard queue line moved very quickly. So that was a huge change, huge positive, huge kudos to Disney for doing that. We want this to stay that way. Now, we know there is a new lightning lane system called Premier Lightning Lane coming in the next few months, and they've advertised this just for Disneyland out in California, out in Anaheim. But with that, it's going to be similar to what Universal does, where you can buy this new pass that's going to give you one lightning lane, a ticket per ride at that park for that day, and it's guaranteed. And you can do it at any time. So you can go in and rope drop Seven Dwarfs Mine Train if you wanted to, or Peter Pan, and you're always going to be in the lightning lane. Now, the downside to this is they say it's going to cost $450 per person for that day. So if you have a family of 4, you're looking at $1,800 extra dollars per day to go to the front of every single line at least once without having to go through a queue. So this is definitely on par with the VIP tour. So if you're familiar with the people that have the checkered vests that are out there, the plaid vests, they are taking people that pay an absorbent amount of money to the front of every ride. This is the same kind of thing, except you don't have that person taking it around. So with that, the VIP tours are, I believe, up to 7 or 9 people that can go on those, but they start at $450 an hour, and it's a minimum of 7 hours with a maximum cost of $900 an hour. So when you're looking at that, it's a cost of about $3,000 a day, all the way up to over $6,000 a day, depending on the cost per hour and what time of year you're going. That's very expensive to do VIP. This $450 per person per day is a little bit less. You're going to save a little bit of money there when you compare it to the VIP tours, but it's still an astronomical price. And what I love about this is for most people, they're not going to be able to pay for it, so it's not going to change the queuing too much. Of course, if every single person was paying for it and cutting to the front of every single line all the time, it would be disastrous, and it would really hurt us over there at the Disney parks in Disneyland and out in Orlando Disney World. That's the new one that's going to be coming, so definitely stay tuned. We will give you updates as we hear more about that. The big change is coming to the Lightning Lane with the multi-pass that's already going and live, and then this new Premier one that's going to be coming in the next few months. But overall, again, fewer Lightning Lanes being given out means quicker standard queues and it makes it not worth doing Lightning Lane. Again, if you've listened to my episode on whether or not the Genie Plus service, which is what it was called before, the multi-pass Lightning Lane, the Genie Plus, is it worth it to pay it to get the Lightning Lanes? I've always said no. And in fact, this trip was very consistent. We did Animal Kingdom. We rode every single ride. We did even Rafiki's Planet Watch. We did the Animation Academy in the back. And we were done by 2 or 3 in the afternoon and had done everything, including Cali River Rapids, which I typically don't ride because I don't love getting wet. But my family members wanted to do it, so we did it. Then we went to Hollywood Studios. We were done there at about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and we rode every single ride in there and even saw the shows. So at the end of the day, we were able to do it without Lightning Lane, and that included waiting an hour for Slinky Dogs. We were able to do all the rides there. If you want my strategies, I would tell you go listen to our rope drop strategies for each of the parks, and they will tell you how to get through that much quicker. And then when we went to Epcot, we were able to do the Food and Wine Festival and ride every single ride there. And we finished up there at about 5 in the afternoon. Granted, Test Track was down, but had Test Track been open, we would have done single rider on Test Track. And I believe we probably would have only waited 20 minutes for that at the most. Again, we're able to do these parks very quickly. That leads me, though, to the I can do this all day tip of the day. And today we are going to be talking about Magic Kingdom and what not to do, because our day at Magic Kingdom was absolutely miserable, and it was all because of timing. We had planned to do it this way, and we have done this in past years this way. It's just this year in 2024, it did not work out well for us. And that is, we tried to avoid Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and do a full day at Magic Kingdom. So if you're familiar with Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party or the Oogie Boogie Bash out in California, what it is at usually 3 or 4 in the afternoon, they kick everyone out of the parks, meaning if you had a pass for that day, you have to leave the parks at that point in time, and they clear it all out and make sure everyone's gone. And then they reopen, and you have to pay a separate ticket price to come back and trick or treat the park, and you can dress up and you can do all kinds of fun stuff. But because of that, we typically avoid going to the parks on those days, meaning we don't want to get kicked out between 3 and 4 in the afternoon. We want to be able to stay late, watch fireworks, and have the whole day to do all the rides. Apparently, because this year they've done 4 days of the week, so Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday were party days, that only left Wednesday as the non-party day, or the weekends as non-party days. And so we decided to go on Wednesday this year. Usually a lot of people do Magic Kingdom on Mondays or Sundays. And so we figured Wednesday was the safest bet and that we would see the lowest crowds. Unfortunately, I was dead wrong. So terrible advice that I gave my family. We did great at all the other parks. We missed the crowds at the other parks. But on that Wednesday last week, it was the busiest I've ever seen Magic Kingdom. In fact, when we were pulling into the parking area to pay for our parking, the cars were backed up like 15 deep at every single stall. And we knew we were in for a world of hurt when we saw that. We got into the parks. We were parked at the back of the lot. And keep in mind, we go an hour before rope drop so that we're through the turnstiles and we're there prepared to do the rope drop when it happens. And we're able to run to our ride. Unfortunately, we were still on the monorail when rope drop happened, and we missed rope drop. That is something that never happens in our family, and we're always there on time. And so we were very disappointed in ourselves, but the family we were with said, no problem, we know we're still going to ride everything. And we got into the parks, and it was slammed. So we ran straight to Tron. We did that as our first ride. It only took us an hour to get on Tron. But by the time we were done with Tron, we took a look at the wait times throughout the park, and every single ride, and I'm not lying when I say every single ride, was over an hour wait time, including like the Little Mermaid, which is typically very low in the mornings. That one was already over an hour, as was Mine Train, Peter Pan, Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean. Everything was over an hour. But we did our best to try to find the shortest wait times out there in the park. We were able to get through most of the rides that we wanted to ride that day, but most of the wait times were around an hour, so it took us quite a while to get through each of the rides that we wanted to do. Now, again, the general queues moved much quicker than they normally did in the past, but the lines were very long. Talking to cast members, they said it's because they changed the party schedule, the Mickey's Not So Scary party, to 4 days a week this year. That only leaves one weekday without the party. And they said the attendance on those days is absolutely through the roof. They said it's insane at how busy it is because people usually come out weekend to weekend. And so they want to do a day at Magic Kingdom. And that's the only day they can do the full day unless they go on a Sunday. With that, my tip of the day is when you look at your schedule, it may not be a bad idea to plan a Thursday through a Tuesday trip if you're going in October, and then plan to go on the weekend to Magic Kingdom to avoid the party and to hopefully avoid the crowds because some people are traveling on those days. But I can say it was the busiest day I've ever seen at Magic Kingdom. It was absolutely insane, and I will not be doing that again. So going forward, we will have a completely different plan, and we will plan accordingly so that we're not there on the only day that they don't have the party. Now, my bigger hope is that Disney realizes this and realizes the pure chaos they cause, and they start to only do the party 3 nights a week and leave 2 weekdays open for regular park goers. So that way it spreads it out just a little bit and you get a little bit more time in the parks on those days. But yeah, that's my best advice is if you're going in October, plan a little differently. Or we even talked about, would it be worth going on a party day knowing that attendance is so low and just blitz that park early and run between the rides and try to get it all done before 3 or 4 in the afternoon, which we have done. My family's done in the past. We have been able to finish it before that time in the afternoon. But when we're bringing other people with us, we usually want to stay and watch fireworks. And there may be rides they want to ride a second time, which is why we didn't do that this year. So a little bit of food for thought. You're going to have to balance it out with your family and what they want to do. Or maybe you're close and you're on site or something, and you have park hopper where you could go do it early and get through the park by 3 in the afternoon. And then on the day you do Animal Kingdom or whatever, a park that's going to be quicker to get through, you can park hop back over to Magic Kingdom and watch the fireworks on that night and avoid the crowd for the most part, except for at the fireworks time. So a lot of different tips to do that. But like I said, we won't be doing that again. So with that, we wish you the most magic week ever as you're planning your next vacation. We're planning ours as we speak. We started talking about when our next trip out there will be, as well as trying to coordinate for Epic Universe. I will be out there again in December, and I've got that plan just to do some condo stuff. But I will be popping into the parks and give you guys some updates if I see any changes out there then. But we wish you, like I said, a magical week, and we will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.